Alright, this will be the review sheet number 4 quick video, so hopefully this helps. This first one here, this first box is going to be from Chapter 1, LT number 10. Okay, learning target number 10, so it's the last section in your notes, or you can go back and check out the 10 video if you're really confused. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a quick example of it off to the side. You have 3 problems to do, and I'm going to do one like it. Okay, so I'm just going to do 12 plus 16. Okay? And what we're doing is we're creating an equivalent expression. Now, first of all, it says you must use the GCF. Now, as you guys will remember, this spot right here is always where the GCF goes. So I'm just going to go ahead and write mine out like this because I always told you to start with this. So that's the GCF right there. And I know that goes there. So the first step you have to do, you have to show work on this, obviously, because anytime I've asked you ever to find GCF, the first thing you have to do is you have to do your trees, your factor trees. So you factor it to 3 and 4, and then 2 and 2. Okay, and I'm going kind of quickly because I feel like this should be review at this point. I mean, we've done this for the last 2 weeks, so it should be review. Okay, now we're going to stack those up. So we'll stack them up right here. 2 times 2 times 3, that equals 12. And then for 16, that's 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. I see that they have a 2 in common, and they have another 2 in common. That's all they have in common. Therefore, my greatest common factor for these two numbers, 12 and 16, is 4, which I know goes right there. That is where my GCF goes. And then we're going to distribute, okay? So we're going to say, okay, 4 times what would get me to 12? 4 times what would get me to 12? Remember, distributing means multiplying the number on the outside of the parentheses by anything on the inside. So we're going to kind of work backwards. We're going to ask ourselves, what would this number be if the result was 12? Okay, another way to do it is just by doing 12 divided by 4. This number, the number you started with, divided by the GCF. That's going to be 3. Okay, and then 12 times what number would give us 16? Again, you could do 16 divided by 4. That number divided by the GCF, and we know that's going to be 4. And just for good measure, just to check it real quick, if we actually did distribute this and check, 4 times 3 would give us 12, bring down our addition sign, and then 4 times 4 would give us 16. That would get us right back to where we started. So you're obviously going to need an extra or an additional piece of paper for all this work. Let's not try to fit it into this little box. Just attach another sheet of paper. Or on the back, you could probably have some room back there. Okay? So you have to do those 3 like that. You have to first of all find the GCF, and then you have to use the distributive property to create an equal numerical expression. Okay, prime, composite, or neither. This is learning target number 5 of chapter 1. Okay, so any information that you need to get from this, you can. I will remind you right now that a prime number has 2 factors. So that's only 2 numbers that divide it evenly, 1 and itself. Okay. Composite numbers have 3 or more factors. And then neither would be a little different situation, but they aren't going to have these criteria. So they're not going to have 2 or more factors. Okay. So as you go through, remember, this is our process for all these. We're going to ask ourselves, is it even or is it odd? Okay, and if the number's even and it's not 2, we know it has to be composite. So if I put a number like 14 on there, you would say even or odd. You would all say even. You know that this has to be a composite number because we know it's even. All even numbers are divisible by 2. Okay, but just understand, if I said, okay, I want you to tell me, is 2 prime or composite? Then you would say that is prime because that's the only even number that's prime. Okay? Every number after this, every even number after this has to be divisible by 2. So let's go to, like, if I made up one like 31, okay, we would say, okay, I'll do this in a different color. We would say, okay, that's odd. And because it's odd, we know that we are going to have to check 3. We're going to check 5 and 7. We're going to see if any of these 3 numbers divides that number evenly using our divisibility rules. Now, the rule for 3 is we must add the digits of our number. So 3 plus 1, that would equal 4. Is 4 divisible by 3? No, it's not. Therefore, 31 is not divisible by 3. Okay, so we go to 5. Now we check the rule for 5. We know the number has to end in either 5 or 0. Does that end in a 5 or 0? No, it does not. 5 is gone. Okay, and then finally 7. There really isn't a rule for 7. You may have to use a multiplication chart. But if you think about it, 28 divided by 7 equals 4. 35 divided by 7 equals 5. So 31 would be between those. Clearly, 31 is not divisible by 7, so we just eliminated those 3 factors. So we know right away that this has to be a prime number. Okay, so there's a little hint on how to do those. All right, we'll go to the next one. Okay, now PEMDAS question. Now this is one of these kind of future questions. We're going to be getting into this in chapter 2. Okay, this is a chapter 2 thing. Okay, now I'm not going to tell you what PEMDAS stands for because technically, even though we're going to do it in chapter 2, you also did it in 5th grade. So I think you guys know this. Based on what I've seen, I think you know what these mean. If worse comes to it, you could always look it up on the internet, but I'm not going to tell you. And yes, it is chapter 2, and I haven't taught you chapter 2 yet, but sometimes I like to throw stuff on there that we're going to be hitting on. Okay? And then you're going to have to figure out how many steps you actually have to use in order to do this. Okay? Now, I want everybody to take a big note right here on these. I'm very picky. I'm going to write the word picky on how I want these done. Okay? Very picky. Everybody's hearing it on this video. You should be watching it. This is how I want it done. First of all, you might be able to do one of those off to the right, but you're going to need to attach a separate sheet of paper. We're going to do this one together. Okay, and I'm going to show you exactly what I expect. 5 to the second power plus parenthesis 20 divided by 2 parenthesis minus 7. Okay? So, here's the process. This is what you have to do every single time. If you don't do it, it will be wrong. I don't really care whether or not you get the right answer because really you could just type this whole thing right into your calculator. Okay, so that's not the point. The point is I want this done a certain way because I know what mistakes you are going to make and I'm going to try to prevent them before we even get there. Okay? All right? First thing we always do is we are always going to write the word PEMDAS. PEMDAS. We're always going to write it every time. Since there's 2 of them, 2 of these problems, one here and one here, you're going to write it twice. Okay, now, as you're going through your PEMDAS, I'll just remind you this means parentheses, exponents, multiplication or division, addition or subtraction. Okay, so what this means is there's a certain order. You just can't start doing 2 minus 7. You just can't start doing 5 plus 20. You just can't break all these rules. Okay, so we start with the parentheses, and we got to look for anything in parentheses, any parentheses, and then anything happening inside parentheses. I can see that there's something happening inside. I'm dividing 20 by 2. So the first thing, I like to do these little trees here like this, just to kind of get it, just so I can see what I'm doing it to. I'm going to go ahead and do 20 divided by 2, and that is 10. Now, once you've gotten rid of you got whatever's inside of parentheses, so I got the parentheses in blue, when I get that down to one number, I can get rid of those parentheses. I don't have to keep them on there anymore. Okay? Now, what a lot of you are going to want to do is do this next and then start skipping steps. Okay, this is my rule. You only do one step at a time, every single time. Okay, so right there, I did one step. I did 20 divided by 2. That's the only step that I'm allowed to do. At this point, we are going to rewrite everything. Okay, rewrite it. I'm bringing down anything that has not been used yet. That's what I do. All I did was one step. Now I'm done with parentheses. Now I'm going to go on to exponents. Remember from review sheet number 2, we had an exponent question. Looked like that. I think it was 7 to the 6th. That just shows repeated multiplication. So that means 7 times 7 times 7 times 7 times 7 times 7. Okay? So we're going to go ahead and do that next. So we're going to do exponents next, because I see that right there. That's called an exponent right there, the little number to the top right. Okay? So I'm going to do 5 to the second power. A lot of people are going to want to put 10, because they're just going to get in a bad habit of it. Remember, that shows repeated multiplication. 5 to the second power actually means 5 times 5. Okay? So that's going to be 25. Okay? Now I did one step, so therefore I am going to bring everything else down. Doing more than one step each line is not going to work. It will not be accepted. Okay? So the first step, all we did was we pretty much rewrote the problem since there wasn't enough room to do it down here. The second step, we did what was in parentheses. The third step, we did the exponent. Okay? There is no skipping steps, so we're done with exponents. Now we're ready to check for multiplication or division. The reason I put this arrow is because it doesn't necessarily mean multiply comes first. Okay? For instance, if I had something like this, 3 divided by 3 times 4. According to PEMDAS, the M comes before the D, so some people would think they got to do this first, but that is not the case. These two operations happen at the same time. Whichever one comes first on the left, that's the one you do first. So I would do this first, rewrite it, and then I would do this. Okay? So coming back down here, I look for multiplication or division. There is not any of that. There's none of that. So now I'm on to addition or subtraction. Same rules apply. Okay, if I had 3 minus 1 plus 4, something like that, just because the A in PEMDAS comes before S doesn't mean anything. When we have this situation, we're going to do whatever we see on the left first. And I see subtraction first, then I do that. Okay? So going back to the problem now, what do you see first? Do I see addition or do I see subtraction? I see addition. Hopefully you're all saying. And that's where I'm going to get 35. Now I'm going to bring down minus 7 because, again, we are not skipping steps. Step 4, and then finally step 5. We can finish this out. We only have one step left. We're going to get 28. Okay? So right there, if you don't have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines, really, these are the lines you need. That's where the actual work is. This is just rewriting the question. So if you don't have 4 lines, it's going to be wrong. This is how I want it done. This is how all the math teachers want it done. So I just gave you the answer. You have to have all this to get it right. Now you need to do that same thing for that second one there. Okay? Okay. This question, Mr. Gellenbeck is making fruit gift bags for his brightest students. He has 24 fruit roll-ups and 30 Slim Jims. He wants every gift bag to be identical to the others. Okay? Now, again, this is another one. You're going to have to show work. There's a lot of work that's required on this one. So you all need to probably just attach another page for work. So the first thing I want you to see is we got to identify keywords. This is going to be Chapter 10, LT number 9. Okay, so word problems, GCF or LCM. Okay, some keywords that I see automatically. We've seen the word identical. Okay. Right here is a keyword. I'm going to help you out and remember. Now remember, you have all that big list of keywords in your notes to look at. So you know I meant to highlight gift bags, not fruit roll-ups. Okay? This is a gift bag is just a type of group. Okay? Use your notes to help you to figure that one out. You guys should be aware that it's either going to be a GCF question or an LCM. Okay, because I said it was learning target number 9. Okay, so you know it's one of those. You got to figure out whether you're breaking something into groups, whether that's GCF or that's LCM, or if you're talking about something in the future or whatever. Okay, so you're going to have to work that one out, and then whatever you get as whatever your answer is, you are then going to have to answer the following questions based on that information. Okay, I'm not going to go any farther with that one, but you can look back in your notes or the practice of this, because we had one just like this in our practice, Learning Target 9 practice. Evaluating the expression on this right here. Again, there's some work that I require. Okay, first of all, that is called an algebraic expression. Okay, we talked about numeric expressions. These are just numeric expressions, numbers and operations. Algebraic expressions, they are going to have operations, and they could have numbers. They're also going to have variables, letters, unknown numbers. Okay? The first step we're going to do here is we are going to rewrite that algebraic expression, and we're going to turn it into a numeric. So basically, we are going to plug in everything you see here. We're going to plug it in, but we're going to rewrite it. Okay? And you guys are going to know that this is what's expected. Okay, so if you just come in and you have an answer, you think the answer is 14, I'm not saying that is the answer, but if you have that written, you're going to get it wrong. I want things done a certain way because I know what mistakes sixth graders make. You got to trust me. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in all these numbers. So I'm going to write 6 minus A is 3, so 3 plus, and I see that C is 10. Okay, next thing we're going to do, we are going to write PEMDAS. Anytime we are ever asked to simplify or evaluate, those are the key words, evaluate or find the value, same thing. You are going to be writing PEMDAS. Okay, so there aren't any parentheses, there aren't any exponents, there is no multiplying or dividing. This is one of those situations, though, where you have to say, well, addition and subtraction happen at the same time, so I have to do the one I see first on the left. 6 minus 3 is going to give me 3. Notice I'm going to rewrite because we only do one step at a time, and that's where we get 13. So the answer is 13. You must show all 3 lines, including the answer. So 1 is rewriting it, 2 is doing the one step, the first step you see, and then the final step is actually finishing it and getting it down to one answer. Okay, so there's 2 questions I've given you that have I've showed you, I've given you the answer. Now when you do this one, you better do it the same way. Okay? All right, we've done a lot of these. I'm not gonna go into too much depth. This is learning target number 7 and 8, chapter 1. Okay, you're just finding the GCF. Again, probably a separate sheet of paper is going to be absolutely needed on this. Okay, just use a separate sheet of paper because a lot of these are requiring work. You know what work you need. You got the back side's got a little room, but you may need a separate sheet. Okay, you're going to have to do your trees, find the GCF, find the LCM. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Okay, now these are just going to be mentally ones. You're going to do these mentally. Okay, so like for instance here, you're trying to tell me what K is. And you're taking K, you're subtracting 8, and you're resulting in 20. So if I gave an example, X minus 5, and that equals 16. I would have to ask myself, what is this number to make this whole thing true? Because there's only one answer I could put in there. I can't just put 9 in there and say, yeah, 9 minus 5 is 16. That's not true. So I got to think kind of backwards. I'm taking 5 from something, so it's going to be bigger than 16, right? And it's going to be 5 bigger. And I kind of just did that mentally, and then I checked it. 21 minus 5, that would give me 16. So there's your answer. So over here, you got to think about it. Okay, here, same thing. You're just asking yourself, 3 times what would give me 27? 12 plus what would give me 30? 40 divided by what would give me 10? Okay, so those are just mental right now. Now, we're going to learn how to do them later on this year, but that's just going to be mentally done. Okay? Area. Okay, I will tell you what the area formula for a rectangle is. It is area equals base times height. I'll even draw you a picture. Okay, draw you a picture. There's our rectangle. We know it's 12 yards by 7 yards. So that's a base, that's a height. It's pretty easy. The biggest thing here is you can't forget your units whenever you're doing an area question. Okay? Area. Let's say that the area is, this isn't right. This isn't the answer. I'm just making one up. Let's say it's 36. That's what you get. Okay, let's just say, I'll make it easy and say, let's say I had a rectangle and it was 4 feet by 9 feet. Okay? To find the area of that, I would do base times height, which would be 9 times 4, or 4 times 9, same thing. And I'm going to get 36. Now, whenever you're doing area, you must know it has to be feet squared. Feet squared. You have to do that on there. So I'm going to be looking for that. Okay? Whereas perimeter is just the distance around the entire object. So here, I'm going to add those on because I know opposite sides of a rectangle are the same length. So then I'm going to imagine I'm measuring. I measure from right there to right there. That's 4 feet plus 9 feet plus 4 feet plus 9 feet. I add all those together and I'm going to get 26 feet. Now when we're talking about perimeter, we do not put a squared on there. It's just feet. just inches, just yards. Area is always feet squared, yards squared, meters squared. Okay? And finally, the sum of two prime numbers. A sum is the answer to an addition problem. Okay? So we know that's a sum. Okay? And we just got to figure out two prime numbers. So you may have to look back to your chapter 1 notes to see if you can't remember your prime numbers, but you should be able to. And you got to think, okay, what two prime numbers would add together that would give me 20? Okay, and then the same thing here. I want to figure out two prime numbers that would be subtracted that would result in 12. Okay, so you might just have to mess around with that a little bit. Okay, let's go back. Okay, on this one, you absolutely have to have work, guys. If you don't, it's wrong. Period. It's wrong. Okay? Prime factorization. Whenever you see those two words, you know right away you have to do your trees. And if you don't do those trees, it is incorrect. Okay? By the way, I'll just show you this real quick. If I had this, something like that, because repeated multiplication is shown with an exponent, I could do 3, 1, 2, 3 to the third power times 5. Instead of writing that repeated multiplication by the same number, I can use an exponent. So that's why you're going to see some exponents on these. Okay? So just keep that in mind. I'm going to kind of let you go on this one, guys. I mean, this is one where you got to figure out what the pattern is. It's multiple choice. You just have to read through it. You just have to ask yourself, what's happening from 124 to 60, from 60 to 28, from 28 to 12, from 12 to 4, and so on. Okay? What is happening? Which of these rules are happening? Like this says double the previous number. Okay? If I doubled 124, is it going to get smaller? No. So let's go ahead and get rid of that. Okay? Because that can't be an answer. It's getting smaller, so you're certainly not doubling. So I can get rid of that. So I kind of helped you out a lot there. Okay? And finally, again, guys, you have to have work on this one, just like you did on the front. I would need to see the word PEMDAS written. And then you would go from there, one step at a time. Okay? So everybody got that? I just want to make sure everybody understands what the expectation is, because I'm going to be counting it wrong if you don't have the work. Okay? By the way, this might be better to read on yours. That right there, guys, is a division sign. Okay, it's a division sign. It's not an addition sign. So just be real careful with that. Okay? Hopefully this helped, guys. See ya.